During the ending of Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1, we got arguably the biggest reveal throughout the entirety of the show. This is that Will Byers holds powers and is essentially able to replicate the powers and abilities that Vecna has. This has been an age-old theory when it came to our boy Will, and seeing it actually happen and the sheer amount of strength that he had, I thought it was now about time to delve into Will and explain why he holds the powers, what they actually are, how he was able to unlock them, why it's important to the wider plot, and how it could lead to his death. So let's get into it. Here is Will Byers' powers explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. How do Will's powers work? First off, I'm so glad that it was revealed that Will had powers. He's been the character that's been the most overlooked in the show and never truly had a sense of belonging or purpose. So with what was perceived to be a person that was weak, with that very persona now arguably being given the most strength and the most important role in the show, it's a great moment for the character to have. Well, with Will, we know that he's always had a deep-rooted connection to the Upside Down, the darkness that's present within it, and also Vecna. Stemming back from when he was taken on the 6th of November 1983, that was where the connection first began. It could potentially go back further because, as we know, there is a connection between Joyce and Henry Creel in 1959. So maybe Joyce could have done something to Henry, which is why he specifically targeted Will in the 80s. But based on what we currently know, we know that Vecna viewed Will as weak and believed that he was able to capture him, reshape his mind easily, control him, and thought that he was the perfect vessel. Just like all of the others that were taken in the Season 5 Volume 1 finale. Ever since that very day, when he returned, he was in tune with the hive mind from the Upside Down. We've seen it throughout all of the seasons, quite a lot in Season 2, such as when he was having his now memories, and also when the Upside Down was being burned and he could feel the heat and pain from it. Plus, Vecna was also communicating with him at this point too, taking over Will and making him manipulate the others, which caused many deaths. Within this season, we saw there being a large shift in Will's connection to the hive mind, with Will almost being treated as an antenna that was picking up signals from the Upside Down, which were the dust particles and the beings that had travelled to the right side up. This was first seen when he returned to the woods. He was able to gain a stronger connection to the vision that he had and work out that Vecna was targeting others. This is something that's crucial to how Will Byers' powers actually work. The Duffer brothers have actually come out and said that Will's powers are purely proximity based. It's his connection to the Upside Down and the hive mind and the strong signal that he has that enables him to tap into them. Without the connection being strong, then his powers aren't able to be tapped into and he's essentially rendered useless. The utilization of these powers is most comparable to when he sees Vecna when he's near, the Demogorgon's perspectives when they're close, has his now memories, or senses the darkness. It only really happens when it's near him. So Will doesn't actually have the power within himself like Vecna does, or even like 11 and number 8. He's almost harnessing and borrowing the existing power that lives within the hive mind, and he can manipulate anything that's within it. That's why he was able to grind all of the Demogorgons to a complete freeze throughout Hawkins. It's not about what's directly in front of him, it's about what's connected to the hive mind. So I wonder if Vecna felt the power that Will emitted, especially seeing as though Vecna is also connected to this hive mind. Vecna originally perceived Will to be weak, but now he might well realize that he's got a match on his hands. When it came to what initially triggered the unleashing of his powers, we saw that it was the threat of the people that he cared about most in the world potentially being harmed. At that moment in time, it seemed like all of them were going to be harmed by Demogorgons, and it was something that he couldn't bring himself to face. So, by realizing that without his friends and family, he was nothing, Robin's speech of him looking within himself to find that purpose and happiness allowed him to find the powers that had been there the whole time. What are Will's powers? When it comes to the powers that Will actually holds, technically, one would have to imagine that he's got all of the powers that Vecna has at his disposal. Will is now connected to the Upside Down in a way that he's never experienced before. He's no longer afraid of it, he's essentially weaponized it, which means that he has full control of the hive mind, the Demogorgons, Demodogs, and Demobats. When he killed the Demogorgons, he basically killed them in the same way that Vecna killed Chrissy and Fred, by freezing them, raising them up, and causing their limbs to go all bent and snappy. So that was a clear indicator that he has what Vecna has within him. His eyes even went all frosted, just like how Vecna's do when he connects to the hive mind completely. If we're saying that Will has the potential to hold all of the powers that Vecna has, that would mean that he's also able to generate force and move objects. Pretty much full-on telekinesis. It would also mean as well that he's able to communicate to the likes of Vecna through his mind as well, just like how Vecna has been communicating with Will for all of these years. Plus, one would also imagine that Will is able to look inside the minds of individuals and navigate their memories. He could do this whilst connecting to the Upside Down whilst being in the right side up, or he might even be able to do it in the same dimension whilst in a completely different location, as long as he remains connected to the hive mind. So even though Will's powers don't lie solely within him and are purely proximity based, if he's in the right range, I think Will could quite comfortably rival Vecna in a battle for sure. How it could lead to Will's death. So it's obviously a positive that Will has these powers within him, but I actually think there's a strong possibility that his powers and his extremely strong connection to the hive mind could bring about his death. First off, let's go back to Season 1. We saw that Will had elements of the Upside Down essentially funneled into him, which gave him that connection that can't seem to be severed, even when the gateway was closed. This then led him to being able to feel the destruction that could come to the Upside Down when he was near it. This was with the hive mind, with the environment, and even with some of the creatures that were down there. If he was connected to it, then he felt that pain. Considering the Mind Flayer, or even Vecna, is what the group are looking to destroy, and with that death happening, the Upside Down could have its end potentially coming around. With Will being connected to it and suffering pain from the damage that gets put upon it, it doesn't bode well for him. He was in agony when the flames were emitted upon a singular tendril of the hive mind, and even when the burn was happening, he could even feel that. So if the entirety of the Upside Down ends up being destroyed, or even if Vecna or the Mind Flayer get killed, the very things that are seen to be the main hosts of it and the creators, I wonder if that means Will might end up dying too. I kinda like the idea of this theory because it would mean that we get to see a character that's been at the heart of the show meet his end, and it could provide a lot of emotion during the finale. However, with Will being the character that's never quite fit in or had much of a place due to not really knowing his identity, if the showrunners decided to have him die, it probably wouldn't paint the strongest or most optimistic of messages following the story's conclusion. I do think it's a theory that holds up though because of just how connected Will is, unless he's able to sever the connection, which might open up a completely different storyline, so there is a possibility that he could potentially meet his end. I have seen other theories going around about Will potentially being related to Vecna or even 11, but I just think they're surface level and I don't think that would add much weight to the story whatsoever. It would almost be a bit too predictable and cheapen it slightly, so I hope that doesn't end up happening. So Will Byers having powers isn't as simple as what we all originally thought, and it could potentially come at a cost to him. We've only seen him use his powers once, so we don't know the full ins and outs of it all, but I'm sure we'll find out just how strong he is. If Vecna knows just how capable Will now is, and what it means for the final battle when the show returns for Season 5 Volume 2. We've gone from just having 11 to now having 11, number 8, and also Will. Vecna better be scared now because he doesn't truly know what's coming his way. So, there you have it. Will's powers explained in Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1. Do you think Will holding these powers could potentially lead to his death? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.